there, and welcome back to my channel. So for today, since it's Halloween, I thought we would do something fun and Halloween themed. So I decided to build a pumpkin patch in The Sims 4. I used a lot of custom content for this one, so it's not up in the gallery or anything. I'm not sure where most of the custom content came from, but I still thought it would be fun to share with you guys what the build turned out like. So yeah. I've got a few creepypastas to read for you, so hopefully you enjoy that. And yeah, so go grab a snack and sit back and relax for some spooky stories. So our first story is Mommy Sleeps in the Basement, written by Haley Hendershot. Speak louder, please. I put my hand up next to my ear from the back of the room, signaling that she would have to raise her voice. She took a deep breath. I could see anxiety turning her cheeks beet red, as strands of blonde hair began to fall out from the same nappy ponytail she wore every day. There was something about her so familiar, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. With her face glued to the paper, too afraid to make eye contact, she quickly sputtered out, "Hi, my name is Paisley Jackson, and this is my poem called My Family." Paisley was a shy little girl. In fact, she was one of the quietest students I had ever had in my 10 years of teaching, which I guess being the youngest of 11 will do that to anyone. Surprisingly, she was very smart, unlike the rest of her siblings who were dumber than a box of rocks. Lord, the Jackson kids were such a headache. Except for Paisley, of course. I just wish I could have given her more opportunities to improve her future. Don't get me wrong, I tried to help Paisley. I really did. I gave her clothes, food, and even had funds lined up for her. But living dirt poor in a shack out in the middle of the desert was a bad hand to be dealt in life. Besides, no matter what I did, it wouldn't have made a difference. Everyone knows that the cycle of poverty is almost impossible to break. I crossed my legs, pen in hand, preparing for yet another bland story about a family I'd never get to meet. If you've ever worked with underprivileged kids, you'd know that guardian involvement is quite rare. When it came to interest in their daughter's education, Paisley's parents were no exception. I have two mummies. One named Betty, who can make good spaghetti. I call her Mom. She's the one that's married to my dad, Tom. One named Claire, with pretty yellow hair. I call her Mommy. Dad calls her his project, his hobby. Being smack dab in the middle of Utah, I've seen hundreds of polygamous families, so this didn't strike me as odd. Besides, even though polygamy is illegal, I try to keep my nose in my own business. Mom takes care of us all. She can do that because she's so tall. Mommy wears a pretty silver bracelet. She wears it because she's so famous. Wouldn't be the first time I saw kids coming up with stories about celebrity parents to add excitement to their ordinary lives. I just didn't expect it to come from Paisley. Mommy has me and Tommy. He's one of my older brothers. Mom is a lot older. She has all the others. I cringed. That meant one of Paisley's mothers had given birth to 9 children. I couldn't imagine going through that many pregnancies. Dad says me and Tommy are a gift from God. He'll never hit us with a rod. His pride and joy is Tommy, but he says the only person he truly loves is Mommy. I looked up from my gradebook, with the line about a rod catching my attention. However, this wasn't the first time one of my students have accidentally reported abuse. Truth is, CPS picks and chooses who they want to help. Mom is having another baby. She's mad Dad wants to name it Daisy. Mommy can't have no more kids. Her last one died of SIDS. Shifting in my seat, I scribbled down a note reminding myself to deliver my daughter's old baby clothes to the Jacksons' shack. As a mother myself, I know babies can be expensive. Dad says she did it on purpose, because she wanted to run off and join the circus. Mom says it wasn't her fault. I promised to keep that secret in the me and her vault. I shook my head in sadness. How could someone blame a grieving mother for something she couldn't control? Mommy was the one Dad chose. He watched all of her school shows. They were joined in the night. Daddy says inside her is a lot of fight. Mommy is just a cover. Dad doesn't really love her. I threw my hand up, a gesturing meaning stop. I had taught my students, but Paisley didn't look up. She continued to read, oblivious to my disappointed frown. Obviously one of her siblings had put her up to this as a joke. Mommy says she needs to get out. She wants to show me what life is all about. Dad gets mad. It's one of his biggest pet peeves. Mommy is sad. She just wants to leave. Mommy sings to me her favorite song. Mom says Dad's head is wired wrong. Shaking my head, I sighed. Another child with so much potential and such a kind heart was stuck in the middle of a lover's quarrel that didn't even involve her. Last birthday, I wanted to take Mommy to see her favorite basketball team, Mom made me a cake with frosted buttercream. I got to go see the Knicks, but Dad said he made a mistake he couldn't fix. Nothing is the same anymore. I don't know why for sure. Now Dad cries at night alone. He asks God, what have I done? To Mom, he no longer tends. She hopes the baby will make amends. Paisley rose her head up with a smile, looking for my approval. Although I was appalled at the inappropriateness of her poem, I didn't want to break her spirits. She clearly was very proud of it, and scolding her for something that wasn't her wrongdoing was just going to send that little girl back to her shell that I'd been trying to break her from for months. So instead, I clapped, making the rest of the class, who were too young to understand the gravity of the situation, applaud too. Miss June, I brought a picture of Mommy for extra credit. It's got one more part of the poem. Can I show the class? I nodded my head, thinking there couldn't possibly be any details worse than what she'd already presented. Paisley reached into the front pocket of her old, worn, hand-me-down dress, pulling out an old, aging photo. She flipped the flaking picture around, displaying it as if it were her most prized possession. My blood ran cold. I finally figured out why Paisley looked so familiar to me. In what seemed to be a school photograph, smiling ear to ear exactly like Paisley, was a young woman by the name of Claire Daisy. She was a high school student, popular for her ability to gain the lead in every school play, that went missing without a trace 12 years prior. She was last seen leaving theater practice late one night, but then she just vanished. No sign of a struggle, no witnesses, no evidence, no body, nothing. Her case was covered on every news station in Utah for a while because of how peculiar it was, until most people lost interest. Paisley happily continued. I was so in shock I couldn't stop her, as she read off the back of the picture. There is one thing I don't understand, and maybe you'll have the answer at hand. If Dad's love for Mommy will never sway, why did he treat her that way? Mom lays her head on a nice soft bed, but Mommy sleeps in the basement under a big slab of cement. That's the end of the first story. Our second story is called Night Shift, and it is written by someone named Teddy. I'm woken up by the sound of my phone going off. I open my eyes to see my cheap apartment covered in the dim light of early day. Sighing, I sit up and slap my hand down on top of my phone, dragging it off my nightstand and onto my face. Hello? Hey Matt, it's Ashley. Not even one sentence and it's obvious what she wants, but I ask anyway. What do you need? Well, my friends and I sort of have plans for tonight, so I was wondering if you could take my night shift. Fine, I need the hours anyway. Rent is due soon. I added the last part more for my sake than hers. Luckily, I'm not working at all during the day, so I get to stay in and watch TV all day. One cheap sitcom marathon later, I'm gathering my work stuff and heading out the door. I work as a lifeguard at my apartment building's pool. It's a great job. All I need to do is take the elevator down and then I'm there. Like everything else in the building, the pool is run down and poorly maintained. It's also oddly located, actually under the apartment building, completely underground and devoid of sunlight. Exiting the elevator, I walk down a short hallway and reach the plexiglass doors that lead to the pool. Inside, I see the familiar pale green tiles of the pool deck. What I do not see, however, is a lifeguard, even though the pool is supposed to be open and supervised 24/7. Normally, someone abandoning the pool is to be expected, but not during the peak hours of the evening, which is another odd thing. I check my watch and it's 7 p.m. There are almost always people here at this time. I shrug and dismiss it as a lucky break. No people means no need to watch the pool. I walk over to the lifeguard chair and plop down, ready for a very boring night shift. My eyes are caught by something on the chair handle. There are a few drops of blood. The previous lifeguard must have had to deal with some kid that had a bloody nose. That thought reminds me to check who the previous lifeguard actually was. The boss would be pretty pissed to find that someone had left the pool unattended. After consulting the schedule, I'm surprised to find that Joe had been working. He's the one person who I would not expect to leave without telling anyone. Nothing that can be done about it now, though. After getting some disinfectant wipes, I go back and wipe the blood off the chair. It's not looking like anyone will show up, so I allow myself to be lulled into sleep by the quiet drone of the fluorescent lights. I have no idea how long I was asleep for, but I wake to the sound of children laughing and giggling. I'm still so groggy from sleep I barely open my eyes. The pool is empty, no drowning kids, nothing to worry about. I'm content with this thought as the warm and humid air of the pool pulls me back to sleep. The next time I wake up is to the sound of silence. This time I check my phone and find that it's 3 in the morning. I'd been asleep for over 7 hours. That thought reminds me of those few groggy seconds when I had woken up. Only now did it dawn on me how odd it had been for there to have been children in the pool so late. The pool seemed to be devoid of children now, so it seemed fine for me to go back to sleep. As I begin to shut my eyes, my attention is once again drawn to the chair's arm. There is more blood. I could have sworn I wiped that off, but apparently not. Getting out of the chair, I noticed the floor is wet. There's a trail of water leading from the pool right up to where I had slept. What had those kids been doing? I shrug it off and head to the supply closet. A few minutes and Clorox wipes later, the chair is clean and I head over to the trash can. As I throw the Clorox wipes in, something at the bottom catches my attention. There, in the can, were the wipes I had used to clean off the previous blood droplets. I knew that I had cleaned the chair, but where did the new blood come from? It must have been those kids, as the watery trail to the lifeguard chair proved. The chair, however, tells a different story when I get back to it. There, on the armrest, are a few drops of blood. A quick scan of the pool reveals that it's still empty. There's no way any kids could have done it this time. It dawns on me. The blood is in little droplets, like it fell onto the chair. I slowly begin to look upwards, and there, coming from the ceiling, is a very small, red stain. The ceiling is one of those paneled deals, with large sheets that can be pushed up to reveal the electrical and pipework of the building. The blood is coming from the edge of one of those sheets. Sighing, I consider calling management, but I know it will take them weeks to do anything about it, probably some dead rodent, or maybe someone's cat. Either way, I don't want disease-ridden blood dripping on me, so I pull one of the plastic tables positioned around the pool under the dripping and climb on top of it. I pull on some gloves, ready to clean up whatever it is, and then push the ceiling tile upward and slide it out of the way. I fully extend so my shoulders are completely in the ceiling. Only now do I realize I have no way of seeing anything in the dark. So I climb back down and get my phone. On the table again. I use my phone to light up the space. I see nothing at first, but as I turn around, the light catches on something pale. My eyes widen in realization. It's Joe. But this isn't the Joe that I knew. This Joe is cold, pale, and very dead. His entire throat is gone, torn out by who knows what, and on his face is a small, bloody handprint. Frantically calling for help on my phone, I stop when I hear a sound below me. Fear prevents me from moving as I hear giggling children and splashing in what had been an empty pool. I'm positive that I did not hear the pool door open. The sound of splashing stops, is replaced by unmistakable sound of someone climbing out of the pool, followed by wet footsteps slapping on the pool deck. I'm stuck, frozen with fear, looking into the face of my dead coworker as some unknown creature approaches me from the pool. The footsteps stop. The only noise now is the low buzzing of the fluorescent lights, that and my terrified breathing. I don't know how long I stand there, staring into the face of a dead man, too afraid to move. I'm pulled out of my terrified daze by something cold and wet grabbing onto my ankle. I freak out. I rip my leg out of whatever is holding onto it, but in the process I lose my footing. Falling onto the table, I smack my head. As everything gets fuzzy and begins to fade into blackness, I make out the silhouette of a child looking down on me. Unconsciousness rolls over me before I can do anything about it. My eyes open, and I'm still laying on the pool deck. The only sound is the continuous hum of the fluorescent lights. The initial grogginess wears off, and I remember what happened. Rather than trying to stay and find out what happened, I do what I consider to be the logical thing and book it out of the pool. I sprint to the door and yank on the handle. It doesn't budge. It's not locked. The mechanism isn't jammed. The door just refuses to move. I'm thoroughly freaked out now. I walk back to the lifeguard table. The ceiling tile is still pushed to the side, and there's a significant puddle of blood near the lifeguard chair. Aside from making me gag, it also makes me wonder how long I was out. A quick look at the wall clock reveals that it is 7 in the morning, which means my replacement was due an hour ago. I lean over the schedule and read it to find that Ashley is supposed to be here. I think back to the phone call that brought me into this mess, which reminds me that I have my phone. How was I so stupid? I reach for it and hope to God that I can call for help. But before my hand grasps the phone, there's a sound of laughter and splashing in the pool behind me. I really don't want to turn around. That pool had just been empty, and with all the crap going on, I'm quite positive that what I see in that pool will not be good. But curiosity wins out over fear, so I take a deep breath and turn around. The pool's empty, yet I still hear the sounds of children playing. The pool's surface seems calm at first, but after a few seconds I start to make out a ripple in the center. The sounds of children grow louder, and as they do, the ripples become more rapid. They keep getting louder and louder. The sounds of fun begin to turn to terror. The children's screams no longer sound joyous, but horrified, blood boiling, like nails on a chalkboard. All the while, the pool water becomes more disturbed. It's no longer a ripple, it's violently thrashing, starting to throw water onto the pool deck. An impossible whirlpool begins to form in the pool. I stare in terror as a figure begins to rise out of the center. At first, it appears to be a child, but I instantly realize that's wrong. It isn't even human. Sure, it resembles a human, but it lacks any sort of color or distinguishable features. The figure is such a dark black that it almost seems to be two-dimensional. I take an unconscious step back, my body desperate to get away from the creature, but my mind too captivated by the horror and impossibility of it. Then it's gone. No proof or anything. The figure that was just in the pool is just gone, the screaming is gone, and the pool is no longer convulsing. I stand in shocked silence. Eventually my mind recovers enough for me to move. Again, I decide to try the door. I turn to face it and I scream. Something is coming through the door. Holy shit, what is wrong with you, man? Ashley says, staring at me like I'm crazy. You, the pool, Joe! Damn, Matt, what the hell is wrong with you? Breathe. All I can think to say is, you're late. Yeah, man, so what? Chill. It's more money in your pocket anyway, she says distractedly as her phone starts to buzz. She picks it up. Hey, sup? Oh, Joe, can you take my day shift too? Hell yeah, man, I owe you. How can she be talking to Joe? I turn to look back at the pool. Everything is normal. The pool deck is dry. There's no blood dripping from the ceiling. Even the table I had moved was back where it normally was. I'm pulled out of my daze by Ashley. Yo, Matt, I got Joe taking my shift. He should be here any minute, so I'm gonna head out. You should get some rest, man. You look like you've seen a ghost or some shit. I just nod as she leaves, still staring dumbly at the very normal pool. A minute later, the pool door creaks open behind me. Hey, Matt, how's it going? He's alive. Turning around and seeing him there made everything just seem a little bit better. All I can muster is to give him a nod and say, Fine, I'm fine, Joe. Returning to my apartment, I go straight to my bed and flop down face first. I must have had one hell of a dream, except it was so vivid. The last thing I do before I fall asleep is set my phone on the floor next to my bed. Due to the fact that my phone is lying on the floor, I do not notice it buzzing, just a text at first, then multiple, then phone calls. It is not until 8 hours later that I get up and check my phone to discover what is on it. 5 new texts, all from Joe. Hey man, any idea where all these bloody Clorox wipes in the trash can came from? Hey Matt, I know this sounds weird, but would you mind coming in and keeping me company? Alright, there's some weird shit going on. I don't know if this is some kind of prank, but it ain't funny, man. Yo, what the fuck is this? Answer my calls, damn it. I know you're doing this shit somehow. Help. The last text was from 5 hours ago. I get ready to go downstairs to try to check on him. A pit forms in my stomach as I see flashing red and blue lights in the parking lot. 3 minutes later, I am told by a police officer in the lobby that Joe was drowned in the pool and then seemingly had his throat cut. The only lead they have so far is a small, bloody handprint on his face. I moved to the other side of the country the following day. And here is our third and final story for today. It is called I've Always Hated Dolls, written by Devin Hoover. Everyone has their fears, whether they're rational or irrational. Mine has always been dolls. Not all dolls, mainly just the ones that are a bit too human. I think it's mainly the eyes that get to me. So I'm sure you can imagine I was ecstatic to find out I was the inheritor of my very own clown doll. It was a gift from my late great-aunt. I'd met her maybe once or twice in my life, so why she left me this of all things was beyond me. This doll was something straight out of my nightmares. I mean, this doll was bad enough, but when you throw in the clown element as well? The doll's glass-like face was painted white, with red accents and markings over the eyes, mouth, and cheeks. The eyes themselves, however, were nothing but a black void. It had thick white hair jutting out the sides, and a round hat that almost resembled a cherry on top. Its outfit is essentially your typical clown attire. Like the face, it was a mixture of red and white. This doll is about the size of a toddler. In other words, way too big for me to feel comfortable anywhere near it. I would have given it away, but out of respect for my grandmother, I kept it. So naturally, its new home would be my closet. I placed it in the back on top of an old dresser that held clothes which no longer fit me. I thought that would be that, and my life would go on as it always had. Unfortunately, that would not be the case. I'm not exactly a tidy person, so my clothes rarely made it back to my closet. As a result, I didn't have to see my clown friend for quite a while. It was a few weeks later before I finally went into my closet in the quest for a clean pair of jeans. There he was, sitting on the floor in front of the dresser. I assumed he must have fallen off the dresser somehow, because I clearly remember setting him on top. Those empty black eyes were too much for me, though. I grabbed my jeans quickly and left without bothering to put him back on top. I spent the rest of the day thinking about how that doll could have fallen off the dresser. So, as a curious person, I decided to check out the closet when I returned home. The doll was there, of course, but it was back to its normal position, atop the dresser. I approached it and looked into those empty eyes. Nothing. As much as it creeped me out, it was just a doll, right? I must have just imagined seeing it on the floor. I live alone, so there's no way anyone else could be moving it. Regardless, I decided to stay clear of the closet as much as possible. A couple nights later, I was awoken to the sound of what seemed to be laughter, and it appeared to be coming from the closet. It was very faint, which is why I was a bit surprised it woke me. Generally, I'm a very heavy sleeper. For something like this to wake me is a bit odd. The last thing I wanted to do was go into that closet, so I decided to attempt to wait it out. After about 30 minutes, I heard a loud thump, and then the laughter stopped. After turning on every light possible and arming myself with a kitchen knife, I decided it was about time to check the closet. I slowly opened the door, and it was completely normal. Absolutely nothing was out of place. Even the doll was sat upon his normal spot on top of the dresser. I picked up the doll and felt around it to see if there was any sort of speech box, but there wasn't. With a loud sigh, I set the clown back down and left my closet. Perhaps I was finally losing it. Over the next couple of days, I was on high alert. I began to notice small things here and there had gone missing or removed, most notably small bits of food that I swear I hadn't eaten. I relentlessly searched every nook and cranny of my small house, looking for any possible signs of vermin or other intruders. Everywhere, that is, except the closet. Alas, my searches turned up nothing, further confirming my idea that I was in fact losing it. That was, until a couple of nights later, when the laughing returned. Only this time, it wasn't just faint laughter. This was a booming cackle. The laugh seemed to reverberate throughout my whole house. I was petrified. I didn't dare move an inch from my bed. The laughing persisted, and I began to hear loud banging noises coming from my closet, until suddenly, its door swung open. A large, dark figure emerged and stormed out of my room. I heard it sprint through my house, opening my front door and leaving. As soon as this happened, the laughter stopped. After reminding myself to breathe, I was finally able to move from my bed. I approached the closet. What I found devastated me. My old dresser was no longer against the wall. Instead, it was now in the middle of my closet, and where the dresser had been was a hole. A hole easily large enough for a human to fit behind, but small enough that you would never notice it if it was being covered up. Beside the hole was the doll, seated perfectly upright, with one arm outstretched towards the hole. I didn't dare look in the hole, afraid of what I might find. Instead, I grabbed the doll and locked myself in the car and called 911. The police later confirmed my suspicion of what had happened. Someone had been living in my home. Inside the hole was a pallet where the person had been sleeping, as well as a small amount of trash. Worst of all, the person had a small collection of pocket knives. They were probably not meant to be used as weapons, but it's still not exactly comforting thinking about it. Since that night, my clown friend has not left my room. He now has his own special perch on the table next to my bed. I'm still not a huge fan of dolls, but perhaps they aren't all so bad. Alright, that's the last story for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed them, and yeah. So if you like them, They're all on creepypasta.com, so go leave the author a comment if you enjoyed the story. I thought they were all pretty great, so hopefully you guys like them. And hopefully you are having a great Halloween and you enjoy the pumpkin patch I built and you get a little bit of inspiration for Halloween themed build of your own. Or, you know, it's just something spooky for you to listen to on Halloween. Anyway, I've got a few videos up on Orange YouTube as well as a super special one going up on my website, so feel free to check those out if you're into that sort of thing. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye! There was something about her so familiar, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. With her face glued onto... Fuck. There was something so familiar about her. No. If you've never... I just didn't expect it to come to... I looked up from my grade book, with the line about a rod... Fuck. Daddy says... She flipped the flaking photo picture... Fine, I need the hours anyway. Rent is due soon. Add the last part more for her sake than... Oh. JK. One cheap sitcom marathon later. Yeah. One cheap sitcom marathon later, I'm gathering my work stuff and heading out the door. I work as a lifeguard in my apartment. One cheap sitcom marathon later, I'm gathering up my work and heading out the door. I work as a lifeguard at my apartment building's pool. Okay. One cheap sitcom marathon later, I'm gathering my work. Getting out of the chair, I notice the floor is wet. There's a trail of water leading down. Quick. Followed by wet footprints. Oh, wait. The sound of splashing stops. It is replaced by the unmistakable sound of someone climbing out of the pool. I lean over the schedule and read to find that it was I lean over the schedule and read to find it was Ashley. Oh. I lean over the schedule and read it. It was a gift from my It was a gift from my late great aunt. I'd met her maybe once or twice in my life, so why she left me this of all things? Wait. It was a gift from my... The eyes themselves, however, were nothing but... The doll's glass-like face was painted white with red accents and markings over the eyes, mouth, and cheeks. It was a few weeks later before I finally went into my closet for the first... Wait. It was a few weeks later before I finally went into my closet in the first... I don't know, first. It was a few weeks... Even the doll was sat upon its normal spot upon... Even the doll was sat upon his normal spot on top of the dresser. I picked up the doll and felt around. That was until a couple of nights later when the laughing. Since that night, my clown friend has not left my room. He now has his own...